Hey guys, this is Reggie Pegues coming to you live from the NYC, that's New York City, Queens, New York to be exact. And I just wanted to come on here and share this message with you today. I know we're getting a little bit of a late start, but we have life. You know, I had to take my daughter to her appointment today, but I'm here now. And I want you guys to know that, as always, this starts off as a YouTube video, and now we're over here on Facebook. So as you come on, introduce yourself, type in the comments and let me know where you're coming. And we're back. I don't know what the deal is with Facebook now with these commercial breaks and pauses. But as I was saying, this starts off as a YouTube video. Now we're over here on Facebook Live. When you come on, please introduce yourself and just type in the comments where you're from. And let's dive into this content today, okay? Again, this is a continuation to the You Are Worthy series. And I want you guys to know, as it says in the title, everybody wants this, but what are you focused on? When you think about focused, the thing that we spend the most time on, the thing that we are focused on, is generally the thing that manifests itself in our lives. Now, we talked about manifestation in the last video, but it's what we focus on is what we manifest. And our manifestations come from what our thoughts are, what we speak into the atmosphere, the energy that we send forward, and then what we attract back to us. So, oftentimes, we spend too much time complaining. I'm just looking at my notes, coming to make sure I got some juicy stuff here. I want you guys to make sure that you get it. And we spend a lot of time complaining. We complain about almost everything, because we've already gone over in this series about that negative voice in our head and how we let it dominate our thoughts to a place where everything around us isn't what we want. We're not attracted to us, the things that we say that we desire, and we're not living the life that we see for ourselves. But in essence, we really have to take responsibility. It starts with our thought life. It starts with our prayer life, actually. But it starts with our thought life. What are we thinking? What are we manifesting with our thoughts? Are we letting that negative voice in our head that controls 80% of the internal conversations that we have within ourselves to dominate what we think and then what we say, which affects our attitude, our mood, and it's just a domino effect. But if we can control that voice, and we just learn to not complain, and just you could put a spin on it so easily. And I had to learn this. I'm not saying this like I didn't go through the process, because it is a process, but I went through the process and learned, for the betterment of myself, for my health, for my family, for those who were connected to me, that in order for things to change around me, I had to become someone I wasn't at that time. I had to learn that happiness is a choice. I had to learn that I control the environment. I had to learn that whatever I have or don't have in my space is the result of my thought process. Okay, so we want to control the way that we think. We want to control what we say. We want to control our energy, what we send out, and we want to be able to attract back to us the things that we want and desire. But we have to learn to control our mindset and the things that we create in our minds and the things that we manifest. So the number one point that we need to do is we need to stop complaining. You say, Reggie, well, what do you mean stop complaining? When you can turn it around and say, many of us complain about our jobs, okay? I used to complain about my job. But when we realize that no one, hey, Joey, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. When we realize whatever job that you may have that you're not passionate about or happy about or going to and everything else, here's the thing that you need to understand. You had a basic need. You needed income. You sought that job out. They didn't come find you in many cases. They sought you out. You filled out the application. They offered you employment. you took it. Now, the temporary euphoric thing that you went through was you went from not having employment to having employment, and then you went from maybe lack of income to having some income. And then after a while, what do we normally do? We start complaining about the job. Ana Sanchez, how you doing? Good to see you. So we start to complain. Then we start complaining about the job. But we're not taking into account what that complaining is doing to us physically and emotionally and spiritually. Controlling that inner voice in your head. Because I guarantee you, for the job that you're complaining about, the car that you're complaining about, the house that you're living in that you're complaining about, or apartment that you're complaining about, I guarantee you I can find 100 people that would trade places with you in a second. So we learn to take things for granted. It's not that you can't change. It's not that you can't upgrade. It's not that you can't improve. But if you don't take 100% responsibility for your environment, if you don't take 100% responsibility for your thought processes, if you don't take 100% responsibility for what comes out of your mouth, and if you don't take 100% for your effort, because a lot of us complain, we talk about, I want this, I want that, and that's where the title comes in. You know, everybody wants this, but what are you focused on? Everybody wants the good life, but nobody wants to work. I'll give you a case in point. Like I said, I have been out of the workforce for 1 year. A little bit over a year now. Almost a year and 6 months. And I'm grateful. But I had to change my process. I had to become someone else way before I got to the point where I could tell my job I quit. And I was able to do it on my terms. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you how freeing that was. Because that very first day, when I didn't have to go to a job, I actually for a split second stood in absolute confusion. Why? Because I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't have to go punch a clock. I didn't have to run to somebody else's job and trade my valuable time for a paycheck. And I was confused. I dropped my daughter off to school that morning and I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Because the majority of my adult life, I've worked for somebody else telling me what to do. Where to go, when to have lunch, when to be sick, when to be on vacation. But it was also the most freeing moment I ever had. If you're getting some values, let me get some #1s in the comments. You know, if this is really resonating with you, okay? You want to be able to free yourself, but it's a process. And one of the first processes that you have to do is that you got to work on you. Stop blaming everything outside of you. Start working on everything inside of you. And I guarantee you, when you begin to change, things around you will change. Absolutely guarantee you that. Okay? The next thing I want you to understand is that you have the power. You have the power to change your circumstance. You have the power to change your environment. You have the power to change your relationships. You have the power to do whatever it is that you focus on. And you can't get caught up on how it appears now. Nobody starts at the top. If you're unhappy with your present situation, you got to start right where you find yourself. And then begin to slowly but surely make the changes. It's not going to happen overnight. I had to learn this. It's not going to happen overnight. It took me a while to build my business. It took me a while to change my mindset. It took me a while to change my attitude. It took me a while to get to a place. Hey, Randy Logan, good to see you. Hey, Cynthia Newman, nice to see you. Thank you for joining. It took me a while to change my mindset and my behavior. It took me to getting back into some good habits and dropping some old habits, and good habits like reading and doing personal development and listening to motivational tapes, listening to Eric Thomas, listening to Les Brown, listening to Jim Rohn. These are people I wasn't even familiar with, really, because I had no interest. But when I made the claim that I wanted to change my life, I had to change my behaviors. I had to change my thought processes. So you do have the power to do this. You can accomplish it. Hey, Tony, good to see you. You have the power to accomplish this. You have the power to do this. Don't let anybody tell you. Society wants you to believe that you are powerless. And that's part of the control mechanism to keep you where you are. But you were born with seeds of greatness within you, and you need to develop them and culture them. If you allow weeds to grow in your gardens, guess what you'll have? Weeds. Instead of beautiful flowers, which you were intended to be. And the last thing I want you to understand is I don't care where you are. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your health condition is. I don't care what your financial situation is. I don't care what your educational system is. I don't care what relationships that you might have in terms of someone that can help you. All of that in today's age doesn't matter. You know why? Because we are living in the most full informational age in the creation of the history of man. There is nothing that you cannot look up, find on YouTube, Google. There's no excuses. There's really no excuses. You can start today, no matter what your situation is. When I started out, I had no education, higher education anyway. Okay, now I have 2 college degrees, not 1. I didn't have resources, but then I changed my thought process and realized if I just shifted my focus and my priorities from certain things, like we went without cable TV for almost a year because television wasn't helping me to create wealth. So I gave up cable television, and that money that we saved by that particular bill went into building a business. So we could do certain things if you're willing to make the sacrifice. But I want you to understand it's not too late. Colonel Sanders, I don't eat Kentucky Fried Chicken, but Colonel Sanders did not start the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise until he was in his mid-60s. There are people all around, I'm sure you see the stories, 98-year-olds going back to college, getting college degrees. What's your excuse? My own father, who had a 3rd grade reading level before he passed away, near the end of his life, went back to school and got a high school diploma in his late 50s. We have no excuses, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what we do. We make excuses for not taking responsibility for self and not moving forward. But you are worthy. You're worthy. But you have to understand that you're worthy. No one else is going to do that for you. Who you are and who you need to become, when you make those changes, then everything else around you has to change. So as always, hop over to my YouTube channel, Hollis205 on YouTube, and hit the subscribe button so you can check out more great content like this. Hit the notification button here so you know when I come on. Also, like and share this video because someone needs to hear this message. If it's not for you, share it on your wall because somebody needs to hear this message today. Okay? And as always, you're worthy. I want you to understand that you are worthy. On that note, may God continue to bless you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.